Okay.
Right? That feels powerful, right?
It does. Let me fucking get one of those on
Unite
you.
the Christians.
Yeah,
Unite.
unite the clans.
Fighting out of Sacramento, California.
Woo! What you gonna do?
Better, stronger,
Son of a bitch.
faster. Oh, yeah!
So today, Russell, we have a very special podcast because I just got back from Houston, Texas, where Mark and I went and visited the Liver King. And thanks to you, actually, I shot everything we did on an iPhone. And it looks pretty sick. It actually was really a cool experience. We shot an entire podcast on the iPhone. And I used, I have these wireless mics that can hook into an iPhone. And we weren't really even supposed to shoot a podcast. Like Mark's just like, yeah, just shoot everything on your phone. I don't care. You know, like I have a good camera and stuff like that, but things just get in the way. And also I feel like when you're pointing a camera at people the whole day, it gets a little old and it feels a little cramped, you know? And the Liver King actually told me, he said, listen, man, I've never been treated this way. He's like, I've had ESPN here. We've had like major networks come down here. We've had all sorts of people come talk to me. And he's like, they're always like setting up lights and saying, we can't film here and we can't film here. And, you know, he's like, you came in like 2 minutes and you set up 2 chairs and you just filmed a podcast. Now, yeah, granted, it's not going to look like ESPN, but what he said was that his guard was way down. And he's like, I think you got a lot better stuff out of me. Like, I wasn't nervous. I didn't feel like, he goes, you know, I'm a loud, boisterous guy, but like, I didn't feel like anything was stopping me from being myself. And a lot of that is due to the way that Mark asks questions and also like makes the people feel comfortable. But I think that stuff is important when you're interviewing people. And as somebody that's interviewed a hell of a lot of people, I just found that it was so easy to just work with the phone.
That's awesome. Did you end up using that tripod?
That's what I wanted to thank you for.
Oh,
so you came in clutch because you bought me a tripod because you were like, you're always shooting stuff on the phone. And but if I didn't have the tripod, I would have been dead in the water because I would have to hold the camera, try to hold it still the whole time or set it up on the table, which, you know, it never works good. You know, you can't get the right shot. So that tripod, what is that, Insta360 or something it's called, like the company?
I can look it up for you.
But yeah, people need to know, like if you have a good tripod for your phone, and I have these little, anybody that's interested in doing it, I mean, people might not be interested at all, but they have these Movo, M-O-V-O, wireless lavs that are actually excellent for just, you know, getting good sound in an environment where you can only maybe use a phone. So maybe if you're like at a restaurant and you wanted to film somebody or you're out somewhere and it's too loud, you can get really good sound just, you know, basically out of that.
Yeah, it was a couple things. It was it was the aluminum mount, right? And then it was that base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a tripod
Yeah.
in general. But I want to tell you all about my trip to Texas.
Okay.
So you ready?
I've been looking forward to hearing about this.
All right, let's rock.
Let's hit it.
Yeah. All right, so Mark and I flew down to Houston, Texas a couple days ago. We spent like 2.5 days with the Liver King. He couldn't have been a nicer person. He couldn't have been a more welcoming human being, you know. So we arrived at his house, and it's funny because we're just driving down this dirt road, and we're like, where does this guy live? And we just keep going and going and going. I wasn't sure what to expect. I thought he would have a nice house, but when we got there, you pull in, and there's like a house being built, and there's like two or three other houses on this lot, and there's this like giant lake house, which is about as big as Mark's house that he has now, and like, you know, that Mark lives in. And I'm like, holy shit, this is only like one of the 3 compounds that this guy has. He's got 3 places like this. I'm not sure how big that first place was that we went to, but the second place that we went to is a 500 acre ranch. I was going to say square foot. That's nothing.
Wow, that's enormous.
A 500 square foot ranch wouldn't get you very far. You fit 1 cow in there.
No, that's not.
But he's got a bunch of cattle. He's got a bunch of chickens. And I don't know, when you just sort of see, you know, like, you're like, oh, this guy calling himself the Liver King and blah, 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 you know, and you think it's all like a gimmick and everything. And I've even said it's like a gimmick, but I appreciate the gimmick. And now that I've actually met him and hung out with him and stuff like that, it's really not a gimmick. I was wrong, you know, and it's okay to be wrong. I thought that this guy sort of like was diving into the weirdness to get more views and to get people to like watch him on Instagram. But
Right.
when you realize that he's actually been doing this behind the scenes for like 15 years, and he's been bodybuilding and lifting since he's been 8 years old,
Oh.
you're like, things click.
Wow.
And you're like, oh, okay, I get it, right? And to Joe Rogan's point, where Joe Rogan, it's really interesting because Joe Rogan will say, the one thing you never want to do is put people down. It'll never get you anywhere. And then somebody says, hey, have you heard about the guy that eats the organs, the Liver King guy? And he's like, yeah, that's a gimmick. That guy's got an ass full of steroids is what he's got,
Right.
you know? And I was like, wow, that's interesting that like I've never heard Rogan get jealous of anybody, right? And I think a lot of people have this thought in their head. They're like, well, he's just doing it. He's trying to sell me something. But I don't think you can find a Liver King post where he even tries to sell you anything. Like he's trying to sell you on his lifestyle. And what I find interesting is we've gone through this with people like a lot of people don't like Dave Asprey, the guy that owns Bulletproof Coffee.
Right.
But to Dave Asprey's like a huge credit to him is that he never tried to sell you Bulletproof Coffee. He gave you the recipe online. He made it online. He showed you, this is the butter I use. This is the MCT oil I use. I just happen to sell a better version of the MCT oil. I happen to sell a better version, what I think at least is a better version of the coffee. I happen to, sell these things. He doesn't sell butter, but he sold part of the ingredients of the coffee, and that's what made him a millionaire. But he was never really outwardly always pushing for people to drink Bulletproof Coffee. It was just something in the background I think this is genius. And I think Mark has done the same thing. So if you're going to criticize Liver King or Dave Asprey, you got to criticize Mark as well, right? But I don't think they deserve criticism. I like the guys who are like, I'm going to give you all the information I can for free, for absolutely free. You don't have to do anything. And if you like me, you're going to support me and buy my products. Now, people that debunk these people, like Lane Norton, who I also really appreciate and really like. I think Lane is awesome. Lane Norton sells products also at the end of the day. But nobody's like, Lane's trying to shove it down my throat and sell me these things. But for some reason, when it's Mark or Liver King or somebody else, and I'm sure Lane probably gets some of that too. I think everybody gets a little bit of backlash for trying to sell things, which is like, I'm proud to buy something from people I like. I'm happy. I'm more than happy to give you my money if I like you.
People want to support creators that they, digest their content.
Well, I was just telling you, Patreon is amazing. My favorite Patreon is Are You Garbage? I love those guys. I think they're hilarious. And I want to pay them every month. I want to put money in their pocket. So I'm like, how can I do that? Well, they say join our Patreon, support what we're doing. Some people do ads and you buy the things in the ads. But what's interesting is that like people won't get mad if you're Tom Segura and Burt Kreischer and you have Bud Light as your ad. Nobody gets mad at that. They
Right.
get mad when you're selling your own thing for some reason. Like it irks people,
Right. Right.
It makes people, oh, I can't believe you're going to do this or do that. And like people don't understand also that not everything is a paid advertisement, and some things are like, what do they call that? Quid pro quo almost, but without saying anything. Like, for example, I could probably never again post about Piedmontese beef, and they'll still keep sending me beef because we built a relationship together. We built something. I helped put their brand on the map. I helped get other influencers involved in it because I really believe in the product. They have a great product. They have a lower fat beef than anybody else has. They have really good standards in the way they take care of their cattle, and I just wanted to be a part of it. So it's not always a money grab as a lot of people would like to think, and I think that that's something that's like important to talk about and realize, because a lot of the trip that we went down there was like thinking like, that there's a lot of people in the bodybuilding and fitness industry that really don't like this guy. I would say the majority of people actually like him and are very interested in what he has to say. And there's a whole lot of people like, he's full of crap. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's making stuff up to sell you things. But like I said, try to look on his Instagram and find what he's really selling you. Unless you go to liverking.com, which is the actual website, you won't find that. But what you will find on liverking.com also is a free ebook on the 9 ancestral tenets that can help get you in the best shape of your life or help you feel good about yourself. And then the other criticism that he often faces, which we talked about a lot, is obviously like anabolic steroids, you know? And Mark and I, being people that have made a movie about steroids, and, you know, I think people think we're going to go down there with like vials and sort of test them. But I think Mark had the best point on his podcast with Liver King, is he said, you know what? There's nothing that we could do that would be good enough anyway. You know? So what good would it do to have them do a blood test or something, when people would just be like, you know, we could have WADA do a blood test or a urine test or anything on them, and it comes back negative. People say, oh, that's like he rigged the test, right? I mean, there's always going to be somebody. And my thoughts are this: I don't care, because it's like, I get it. I get why people would be angry about it. But the reason I don't care is because if you've ever taken steroids, and you've taken testosterone, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I take testosterone, correct?
I got pinned this morning, Chris.
We don't look like the Liver King.
No, I don't.
There's a lot more to it, man.
Yeah.
There's genetics, number one. There is lifestyle, number two, right? Those two things are going to be far more important than just sticking a needle in you. And if you don't have those things, you can never get a physique like that. You know, if you don't have the genetic ability to do it. He's never been fat. That's a big deal.
Right.
That's a big, big deal.
That's
a lot
a
of
big
people
deal.
don't understand that. Like, once you lay on pounds and pounds of body fat, it's hard to go back and get rid of that for good and keep that off.
I mean, beyond that, and from being someone who's way heavier than you've ever experienced, once the largest organ in your whole entire system is your skin, and skin does not shrink. I mean, there's rare cases where people say it has, but most people, the skin accommodates the bigger body, and the skin never goes back to the smaller body size.
Yeah.
Once you hit a certain threshold.
And the skin is an organ, right? Basically.
Right.
And the interesting thing is, there are people, and I believe in this a little bit, but there's actually no real science to back it up. Dr. Jason Fung, who he takes a lot of heat, especially from Lane Norton, because he does say a lot of things that are a little wacky.
Mm-hmm.
But what he says is that he's never had a client that has that's had extra skin, because he uses a lot of fasting. They do a lot of fasting.
Mm-hmm.
And he says that basically over time the skin shrinks, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know how much I believe of that. I don't know if he's never had somebody with extra skin or not. I can't tell you, but I do know that there are cases of people that have lost a lot of weight with fasting. There are definitely some case studies to where they haven't had extra skin and they've lost like a couple 100 pounds. And I find that interesting.
I saw Dr. Rhonda Patrick interview this like NASA doctor who also did some like, I'm going to be wrong on the stats here, but he did something like 90 days fasting, like did a straight water fast for 90 days.
Uh-huh.
And he was taking like a multivitamin every day and having his blood work done. And he apparently lost all of his extra skin too. So maybe there is this thing, if you put your body into just pure starvation mode, it happens.
We also have to remember that science comes from anecdotes. So a lot of people that are science only, we've talked about this before, science only can get you in trouble. Bro science can get you in trouble. It's interpreting it for yourself and where you fit into that. Like, for example, you have a good amount of weight that you still want to lose. So among that good amount of weight you want to lose, if you don't want to have extra skin at the end, then it's sort of up to you to whether or not you believe in the fasting or not, that's going to be something that does it. Mm-hmm. I've actually been thinking after visiting Liver King, I think this was I think anything that's sort of that you'll remember forever is a life-changing experience.
Yes.
And I have to say that this trip is something that I'll never forget it, because I did things on this trip that I've never done before. Not like that, Russell. Not like that. Liver King's married, all right?
Yeah. He did not seem receptive to Mark testing his abs.
The only time I was there where things got weird, and people can go to Mark Smelly Bell's Instagram and look this up, or Russell maybe can post it. But we definitely had an incident where Mark was asking him about his abs and if they were fake or not. And Mark wanted to like touch his abs and feel his abs. Well, you turn it up, yeah. Can you hear me here?
But we know the abs are fake, so I'm going to poke at him. Hopefully he doesn't punch me, kick me, or choke me out, or shoot me, because there's a bunch of guns around. Let's
I
see.
don't let a fucking man touch me.
Let's see.
He's
I don't
already
let
ready.
fucking another man touch me.
So that means that they're fake.
How the fuck would you know if they're fake?
I don't know.
Does anything fucking fake?
People have theories that those abdomens are fake.
How would you know what? Fuck it. She knows.
He's a very
that I would
intense
fucking-
person, though, so
one-
I can't
one time
really
some guy
tell
and I
if
go,
this
"Don't
is
you
real or
fucking
not.
touch me."
Like if he's
You do
actually
whatever you want
mad,
to my fucking ass.
because he wasn't
You
mad.
do whatever you
after.
want.
These are implants, is what the internet says. Right? This is what you guys said? Feels like just normal. He's leaner than me through the stomach, but my stomach feels similar.
I just don't see a lot of people.
Wait, hold on.
Built up abs.
That's a savage right there, you know.
Doesn't feel like an implant to me.
Fuck
I've
would
felt
you?
some implants before.
Would you just put a whole fucking? How would you do that?
I don't know.
I mean, I actually don't think people actually
Great,
do
he's all
that.
covered in mud.
I've never heard of it.
There is ab implants. Haven't you seen the actress that transitioned to a man and now has?
That's you already lost me.
I lost him. I started talking about an actress that transitioned. A lot of people were saying that
Elliot
he might have had ab implants. Right. And then if you look up ab implants, you'll see that there are actually ab implants, and they don't look super duper fake. Like they don't look fake at all, actually, and they don't. Most people don't get it done to where it looks fake. They get it done where it's like it's got some realism to it. You know, there's enough skin and maybe a little layer of fat over it, so they don't look, you know, super fake. But anyway, that was the only incident that was a little bit weird that we got into there. But I'll tell you, like what we were doing here is we were driving around. I don't know what you call these things. I think they're called razors. They're like these ATV dune buggies, like 4-wheel drive dune buggies, and we were driving them around on the farm and through the woods, and right away we go into this he's like, we're gonna go into this mud bog, you know, and he's like, when you hit the mud bog, like when you get halfway through it, you're gonna want to just gun the engine to make sure you get through it. And so we go into it, and I guess Mark wasn't going like fast enough, or maybe he was going too fast, and like we hit it and we just went poof, and we just stuck in the mud. We stuck in the mud. And I was like, Liver King's going to be so mad. This is going to take forever to pull us out. And then Liver King's like, hey, he gets out and he goes, damn, you break everything, including world records. I love it. And he was like, this is how great the guy is. Mark got his ATV stuck in the mud. I thought it was stuck for good. And Liver King's all happy. And he's like, nah, no problem. We'll winch it out. So he has me working the winch, you know, and pulling us out. So he basically like took the cable and went and wrapped it around a tree. And then I pulled us out basically with a button, you know, pushing a button. That's all I did. But we got it out and we continued on our journey. And what was great is I was filming the whole thing, but he didn't tell me you guys are going to get drenched, you know, and we had mud all over us. I was actually wearing these same white shorts that I'm wearing today. Yeah. I was wearing these and they were just covered in mud. I was like, I picked a great day to wear white, but it's 105 degrees down there. And it's really humid, so you kind of get killed. So you don't want to, you know, try not to wear like dark colors if you can. But we ended up getting covered in mud. And then the Liver King told us like, hey, those are the best probiotics out there. You're never going to get a disease having that all over you. And the mud smells like poop. So I'm sure there's poop mixed into it because there's a lot of cows there. Yeah. So I'm sure there's some poop in the mud. Yeah. But hey, so we got covered in mud. And then we went to his little shooting range. And we're with his kids. His kids are 13 and 16.
We just talked about this. You just said you'd never fired a firearm before in
Never
your life.
fired a firearm. And what did you want to do? You're like, let's go to the range.
Let's go to the range
but
today.
But now I'm ready to go to the range.
That's great.
Because I know what it feels like to fire a gun. Now, he had all these amazing guns. He probably had $100,000 worth of guns at least.
Oh, I bet.
Sitting out. And they were like, it was like a Rambo movie. I swear to God, like going and seeing like all these guns. And then he has a guy that works for him that like set us up on the guns and showed us safety and how to work everything. And, you know, we just went one at a time. Everything was very safe. He has 2 kids, Striker and Rad, which are great names.
Great name.
Both kids have like this kind of Braveheart kind of hairdo, like a mohawk that's like braided, which is kind of cool. They're both like really, really blonde hair. Liver Queen is a blonde. And I believe it's a natural blonde because the kids are just blonde, you know.
Right.
and they're into it, you know. Like a lot of people will say, like he's told me, and we have interviews where we talk to him about this stuff, but he told me that Child Protective Services shows up a lot.
Oh my God!
And they come there because people see him on the internet and they complain and they find out, you know, where he lives and this and that, and like, oh, he's making his kids do this and he's making his kids do that. And they said Child Protective Services comes, they ask the kids like 4 or 5 questions and they're out of here. They're like, we're so sorry to bother you. They're like, what were you making your kids do? And he's like, oh, I make them do like push-ups before they eat. And they're like, and they ask the kids like, do you want to do push-ups before you eat? They're like, yeah, we have to earn our food. We have to like earn things around here. Nothing's easy.
Which even leads to the question, not to derail you too much, but do they have the right to ask what does a kid wanting to have to do with it? I mean, I make my kids do stuff they don't want to do all the time.
Imagine coming to your house and saying, Russell, did you make your son clean up his room?
Did you make him shower
today?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Like it is weird, right?
It's overreach. That's a different topic, I suppose.
Yeah. It is definitely. No, but it doesn't derail. I think that's a great thing to talk about. Like, what right do we have? I mean, we talked about this. We went over the post that Chris Duffin did, and I sort of agree with Chris Duffin, but I also agree with the Liver King. When I did Trophy Kids, if anybody wants to watch Trophy Kids, you can go on HBO Max and you can watch Trophy Kids, and you can see what asshole parents do to their kids in sports, right? Just for the simple glory of like winning a game at Little League or doing whatever. Those kind of things don't come with the same kind of rewards, you know? It's not the same thing. There's a difference in having your kids work hard at home so that they learn values and they learn things, rather than like you just want to see them hit a home run. Like that's not what the Liver King's trying to do.
So listen, and you know, someone's gonna disagree with me on this, but I had my sons had to do planks today, and my eldest son had to go, I think it was like 2,000 meters on the rower. I demanded.
Let me get my phone and call the CPS.
I demanded that he exercise a little bit because the rest of the day is going to be filled with Minecraft. That's it.
Yeah, so these kids get to play video games. They get to do stuff.
Right.
They just have to like, did you work out today? Yeah, we worked out today. Great. Then you can play some video games.
Right. Now, to the point of earning it, as he calls it,
It's not hard.
Is it? But I mean, is it really every time they get in the car they got to earn it? Is that part of the show?
No. It's like So the day, like when we were there, we just did simple things. Like we went out to the shooting range, and actually Mark said it. Why don't we all do 30 push-ups before we shoot these guns? Because we're blessed to be here.
Wow.
Like we're blessed to be here. Like this is really cool, and like I want to thank you. So I want to do what you do. And so Mark's like 30 push-ups. And then like before we went on the boat, we did 30 push-ups. So this is another thing that we did.
He was earning it.
The first day that we went there. Well, let me tell you, like, I'll tell you like the trip from like when we first got there.
I'm in.
When we first got there, we walk out. Liver King's like, I told you not to let these guys in here. You know, these 2 Dobermans run out. We're like, oh my God, right? These Dobermans come running at us. And it's like, we're literally at like Wayne Manor, I felt like. It was like a huge, nice house. And these big dogs come out, and then like Liver King comes out, and she's adorable. She's a Polish blonde woman who is about to turn 50 and looks about as good as a 50-year-old would ever.
50?
She's 50.
You tell me 35, and I believe you.
She's my age.
I mean, I just,
and she's beautiful.
He popped up on my feed today where they were like going out in an Escalade or something like that, and I saw all 4 of them get out and do their push-ups, and I noticed. The boys, one boy can do full push-ups. The younger one can't yet. The younger one...
I'm going to send him a slingshot push-up,
The younger one pancakes on the ground and then pushes up just like my kids do.
Yeah.
And then I noticed Mom came around the corner last, and I was like, I mean, she looked young. She looked much... I can't believe she's 50.
She's a beautiful person.
How old is he? You know?
45. So
wow.
She's a couple years older than him.
Sure. That's what I did.
Yeah. Hey. And you know what? So what's really interesting about them is they were like tell all, like they wanted to tell us everything. So when, well, first of all, we got there, they came out, they greeted us, and then we went inside. And the very first thing we did, I had balls in my mouth from like 10 seconds into the trip. So like we walked in the door and he's like, there's the testicles. Like it's all laid out. This guy has an amazing setup with an amazing staff.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you've ever been around people that are wealthy. It's beyond crazy when you
Not
have
that
like,
kind of wealthy.
yeah, like I've not been around this kind of wealth either. So when we walked in the door, there was a giant, like, you know, one of those really nice cutting boards, like the booze blocks, the one that Mark has, that big thick one. There's like one of those sitting out, right? And there's a bunch of bone marrow on it, a bunch of chopped up testicle on it, cow testicle, and a bunch of chopped up liver. He's like, where do we want to start? And I'm
Probably
like,
similar to what he did to Impulsive.
Yeah.
Right? The Logan Paul
yeah,
podcast,
well, like
right?
let's eat some testicles.
Yeah. I mean, that's what he did for those boys.
Right off the bat, I ate some testicles, and not like they're like, honestly, I don't want anybody to think that I think that there's something cool about it. I just think it's another food. Like I don't think there's anything like I don't find anything oh, you're eating the testicles. Like, you know, I think maybe eating an eyeball might freak me out of something.
Maybe there's nothing spiritual about it if you don't believe in spirituality, but a lot of people do believe in spirituality, Chris. And why are we not allowed to honor their opinion and not demonize it?
Well, you know what? Everybody wants to brag that the Native Americans used the whole animal. Now, if you use the whole animal, you're a freak and you're doing something weird. But if you eat like Oreos mixed with Ritz crackers, have you seen those new things?
We looked at them last week.
Yeah. Like you eat something like that, and you're like normal. Like
Those are still on your
that's-
mind, I see.
You know what? They've been on my mind because I couldn't find them anywhere.
Oh, no.
But now I got to be out the processed food game. So if I find them, I'm going to be screwed.
Yeah.
I'm going to be like, I don't know.
The purge. Maybe you have a purge day.
There you go. So
Which
after
is Super Bowl, in my opinion, by the way.
Okay. After the testicles and the bone marrow and the liver, we just ate a little bit of that. They just had a really nice conversation. And I gave Liver King, this guy's got millions of dollars. And I gave him a bag of like $100 worth of slingshot stuff. Probably more like $300 worth of stuff. It was actually kind of a lot. I had a bag packed with I had some Mind Bullet in there, which is our Kratom product. I had some, what else did I have? I had fasting gum because I thought he would find that interesting. I think that's a great product, especially for anyone trying to lose weight. It's just another way. It's another tool in the toolbox. I had like a slingshot, wrist wraps, like all that kind of stuff, right? He was so excited. It was like Christmas, and he was so pumped. And to see the joy, like the real joy, he's like, people don't bring me shit. Like nobody gives me anything ever. He's like, I'm so excited, you know? And he was so excited about it. And then we even sent him some more stuff, which we sent him some steak shake and some different things. And he even has a product like the steak shake, but he always wants to make things better. So we tried his shake called Full Beast, which the ingredients on Full Beast are amazing. And it tastes pretty good. But he asked Mark, how do you feel Full Beast versus the steak shake? And Mark just said, hey, to be honest, I think mine tastes better. And this is how cool the Liver King is. He's like, you help me make mine taste better, I'll help you sell more of yours.
No
you know, like
shit.
that's the kind of
No
cool,
shit.
like basically like what he said, like hey man, like let's make this better, you know? And I just love his attitude. Like everything that he kept saying was like, right on, man. Like I dig that, you know? So we talked for like a little bit. Then we all took our shoes off and we walked outside to walk on the ground. And he started teaching us a little bit about grounding and what that does and how that can help us, but not really going too much into like science or anything. He's just saying like, hey man, we don't connect enough with the ground. We don't get these charges out of our body, and we're walking around all day in like rubber shoes with rubber soles. And like,
Good point.
we never like take the shoes off and actually just stand in the dirt, you know, and like let ourselves feel what it's like to stand in the dirt. And I actually love doing, like, if you watch me in the gym, I do everything with no shoes now. Squat, deadlift, this and that. My feet aren't strong enough though, like on the bottom. They're not like, they're like still baby feet. If I have to walk outside on the pavement or something, and it's 100 degrees out here.
Yeah.
So it kills. So you can't walk everywhere with no shoes, but as much as I can, I have my shoes off in the gym, and I'm just careful not to drop anything on my toe. Thank God it hasn't happened yet. But, you know, I squat barefoot, I deadlift barefoot, and I feel a real advantage. I feel like I have an advantage over everybody that doesn't do that. And so I let people know all the time. And it's dangerous running a gym because I manage the gym also. So it's dangerous, but I'm telling everybody, why don't you take your shoes off when you squat?
Mhm.
You know, and people are like, you sure you want me to do that?
And you signed your waiver at the door, though, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even people like my buddy Mitch, who does some crazy stuff in the gym sometimes. I'm like, you can take your shoes off when you squat, but you have to put them back on because you do some crazy stuff sometimes. You got to put them on when you're done with that, you know. But yeah, I mean, the thing is that Mark and I went somewhere, and for the first time in about, I would say, a good 10 years, I just had a blast.
Oh, it's nice to hear, Chris.
Like, I had the best time. I want to move there. Like, I'm like, I would move right into this place, and I want to live this lifestyle. If you do it, if you experience what I experienced, you would do it. You would be like, you know what, man? I don't like the way I'm living. I don't like what I have right now. I don't like having limits on myself. I don't like any of this, you know? And I'm not saying any of it, but like there's just a lot to be desired once you see that.
The rancher's lifestyle?
Yeah, it's almost like to me, it was like a psychedelic experience. It was just as cool as doing mushrooms. I saw the other side. I saw where I should be. You know what I mean? I saw where I see myself. I'm like, I need to be involved with this guy somehow. So we talked about a lot of things. We even talked about possibly teaming up and doing my movie Meatheads.
Wow.
You know, and doing that. And he's like, I could easily fund it. I can help you fund it. I can produce it with you. What does that look like? And whatever. And I'm not saying that we're definitely going to do anything, but like, it's just cool to even be able to have those conversations with somebody that could like write the check to do it and actually make it happen. Because a lot of what I do with making movies is like scraping by, like just trying to get anybody to give me some money and do this and do that. And like, I'm not hooked up with the big studios. The big studios like Netflix and those places, they don't want my kind of content because they want to put out stuff like Game Changers.
Listen, Chris,
but we're going to change that game.
Chris, fact is meat is not on the agenda.
Yeah, it's not on the agenda.
And you have to fight that. And to find someone that countercultural in that way is a big deal.
You have to fight that from like the bottom up. And I'm thinking somebody like Liver King, for example. I want to talk to Ben Shapiro. I have things set up to where we're going to hopefully meet with his people at Daily Wire and talk to them about this movie Meatheads I have, which is about the importance of meat and animal agriculture in the United States. Right? I'm not here to debate whether or not it's ethical or not to eat a cow. What I'm here to debate is whether or not it's good for you and whether or not it's good for the planet. And if it's not good for the planet, in which ways is it not good for the planet? And in which ways can we help as meat eaters make this a better place to live?
Right. And you've discussed many times, and you are out to explore how to make it more ethical.
Yeah, how do you make it more ethical? How do you make it better? You know, I saw this thing I told you with these chickens, and they're killing chickens. And they're killing chickens like crazy, euthanizing all these chickens because they're male chickens and they're not going to lay eggs, right? So they just get rid of them. And I'm like, well, we don't. Why do we need that? Like, why are we just killing all these? Like, wouldn't they grow those chickens up and use those as meat? You know, why not just set them out free? I mean, why are you killing them? Like, just put them out in a field. They'll live and they'll be at least be food for another animal because that's what chickens are, man. Like. Chickens eat the bugs and animals eat the chickens. So it's like, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm not seeing the whole picture. Obviously, there's reasons why they do a lot of these things, but it makes me sad to see a bunch of little baby chickens just like getting killed and thrown in the garbage. You know, like what is that used for? Is that at least put to good use? Is that at least used to like fertilize other things? Like I don't even know what happens to that. So like those are the things I want to investigate because if we are making a mess of this planet, I want to help clean it up. And I want to help clean it up in a way that will help people get healthier. And what we realize is that when we have healthy people, we spend less money on health care, right? And when we want to improve the planet, 10% of the greenhouse gases, 10% is a huge amount. 10% comes from our medical system. You know, half the people that are in the hospital right now are there because of what they ate, and 80% of the people that have chronic disease comes from their food, right? And then we also have 88% of Americans have some sort of metabolic condition or are considered metabolically unhealthy, which means what we eat. And we need to change these things. And the only way that we can change, and this is great, is Mark and I showed the Liver King something that he absolutely loves. We asked him what his favorite movie is, and he said Braveheart. And we're like, that's great because we feel like we need to team up. We need to unite. And I don't know if you remember, but Mark and I always do this, but we do the handshake, the Braveheart handshake, where you don't shake the hand, you shake the guy's forearm like this. And William Wallace says, unite us.
Yeah.
Unite the clans. So all weekend, we must have done that like 100 times with Liver King. Like every time something funny would happen or something good would happen, he would go, unite. And he would like grab the forearms. And we actually have that in the podcast.
Wow, you just slingshotted me back to 1993. Shout out my youth pastor when I was a teenager, Dave Spear. That's how he shook hands.
Really?
The Braveheart shake.
I thought you were going to say 93 when Braveheart came out. I was like, it's 95.
Yeah,
Won the Academy Award.
Well, God. I mean,
Was it 95? Double check that.
Yeah.
Because it might have been 96. I don't know. I don't know why I said that like a millennial. The up talk, when people ask a question. You know, when people talk like that, they're like, don't know what's going on.
95, Chris.
95. And it won the Academy Award. I think is that the same year that Pulp Fiction came out? Or was Pulp Fiction earlier?
94.
Okay, 94. And then what about Fight Club? Was that 94 or 95?
99.
Oh, 99.
But the book might be what you're thinking.
Oh, wow, Fight Club was 99. There's another movie in 95, I guess. Well, anyway, that was a good era for movies. Mark always says there hasn't been a great movie since Braveheart.
96 was the book for Fight Club.
Mark stands by that statement.
What? There hasn't been a...
He's like, there hasn't been a good movie since Braveheart. And by good movie, he means like, but then there was also Gladiator, which was like a Braveheart, almost like the same thing. We're going to make a big epic with a great director, you know, with a great vision. And Ridley Scott did Gladiator.
Who did Rogan just have about stoicism? Made me think
Oh,
of Mark.
Yeah.
Mark is the first person that introduced me to stoicism.
Well, where do you think Mark learned about stoicism?
Where?
His brother bought him a book by Ryan Holiday called The Daily Stoic. Said, I think this will really help you. His brother Boar.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about Mad Dog, maybe.
No.
Wow.
You know, Mark always talks about, like, it's so funny because Mark always talks about Gary Vee. And he always goes, yeah, my dad bought me this book. I'm like, our dad didn't buy that book. He wouldn't know about Gary Vee. I told you about Gary Vee. And I remember that I told him about Gary Vee because I read the book Crush It. And I'm like, well, this is cool, but it doesn't really apply to me because I don't have anything to sell. But my brother does. And it was like right when he was starting his company.
Wow.
And so he jumped on that, you know, bandwagon way back then. And speaking of jumping on the bandwagon, we need to talk about something. A lot of people have been getting mad at me on Instagram because I've been posting some of this ancestral stuff. Not too many people get mad. I would say most people are positive, and I love the people that follow me, and I want to keep it positive. But if we can pull this up a little bit, this is a post from this throwback supplement was a favorite among old school bodybuilders, right? And I think go on to say, I don't know exactly what I say there, but I think I said like I never really eat liver, but blah blah blah. So I bought this supplement. This is 2018, March 11, 2018. The Liver King social media is only like 8 months old.
Yeah.
And if you go to the next, I think I sent you another picture too, where, and I think it's maybe from 2019. Let's see where this one's from. Not that one. That's another one from 2019. That's just raw liver. Thought some sliced liver every few days and eat a little bit of it.
This one?
Yep, that one right there. And so what's interesting about this is that these, on the left and the right, the grass-fed beef liver and the grass-fed collagen, those are Liver King supplements right there. And this is way before we even knew him. You know, nobody knew about him.
This is his brand?
That's his brand.
No shit.
But his social media is brand new. So he's had his brand for he's had his brand for years, and the social media is new. And actually back then, I remember Paul Saladino saying, hey, I want to introduce you to my friend Brian, who no longer exists, by the way. Brian it's almost like dead naming him.
Yeah.
I want to introduce you to my friend. Well, we won't dead name him again. I want to introduce you to my friend because he owns this supplement company and blah, blah, blah. And then later on, it became Liver King. But back then, I told Paul that, like, I really wasn't, I'm like, I take some of that stuff, but, like, I don't really know. Like, I don't know why I didn't go for it because I probably should have gotten involved with him way back then. But I just wasn't, I guess I wasn't that into, like, how much this stuff helps. I didn't really know. So I would take it and stuff. But he was like, yeah, he wants to like sponsor you or something. I'm like, I was kind of like weird, like, I don't know, because at the time I didn't have a podcast. I didn't have something to sponsor. So I felt kind of weird about it. I'm like, I don't really have anything to sponsor, you know? And then what's interesting is like, I just never went back to him, and I should have went back to him because months later, I talked to Piedmontese, and they ended up saying, well, we want to sponsor you. And I'm like, well, I can't turn down free meat. I got to figure this out. And that's another thing I want to tell people is like a lot of the stuff that I post on my Instagram, well, 99.9% of the posts I have on Instagram, I don't make any money off of at all. And people might not believe me, but I don't make money off of it all. Mind Bullet, which is our Kratom company, is a pretty small company. I do make money off of Mind Bullet. I've made money with Piedmontese in other ways. I've introduced Piedmontese to some of the top influencers in the business, like C.T. Fletcher and Mike O'Hearn, but it's an easy sell. It's like easy. And for those kind of things, I get paid in meat. I basically get as much meat, organs, whatever. Like they will send me whatever. They are the best sponsor in the world because that's our trade-off. And they like that because that's easy for them. It doesn't cost them anything. It costs them, obviously, but it doesn't cost them, you know, financially on the books to where it's going to hurt them in any way. So they sponsor me with meat. And then I've made money with them other ways, just being honest to tell people like where these things come from. I did a restaurant deal where I sold, you know, like $8 million worth of beef for them to a restaurant company, you know, that does about $8 million a year in ground beef called Hupdoddy. And my friend Matt Schweitzer, who just got married, shout out to Matt. He runs that place. And because I know him and we were friends, he was looking for a new meat vendor. And I hooked him up with Piedmontese, and I just told him like, "Hey, let's do what's fair," you know. After we make this deal, and I got paid pretty well from that. I think that stuff is cool. To me, that's like I'm not trying to endorse something that I wouldn't eat or I wouldn't use. And Piedmontese has half the fat of every other steak, right? So why wouldn't I want to be involved?
Right.
Why wouldn't I want to be part of that? Why wouldn't I want to push that?
And you were talking about similar cattle back before you ever met Piedmontese, right?
And this is how everything came about with Piedmontese. It's really simple. I did Bigger, Stronger, Faster. We were talking about gene doping and gene editing. And then Louis Simmons just came up with this quote, like, what if they made something better than steroids? And I'm thinking in my head, what would be better than steroids? Oh, maybe gene doping would be better than steroids. So I'm going to see if there is any cases of gene doping. So I start trying to look and see if there's any like human cases of gene doping and these things. And I just really couldn't find it. And what I came across was like, there's this myostatin gene that everybody has, and it limits the amount of muscle that you can gain. But if people have less of that myostatin gene, they can get as big as they want, like these cows. And I'm like, what are these cows? They're called Belgian Blue. And I'm like, I need to find somebody that has Belgian Blue cattle. So I found this guy, Craig Phillips, that was out in Colorado and went out to his farm, and we filmed that scene for Bigger, Stronger, Faster with the big jacked cows. After we filmed that scene, he was like, hey, do you want to eat some of this? And I'm like, yeah, is it good? I'm like, it must be gross. Like, it's so lean. I mean, like, it's got to be really tough, and it must be like shoe leather. And he goes, no, quite the opposite, my friend. This is the most tender piece of meat you'll ever have. And I actually have seen a deleted scene from Bigger, Stronger, Faster. Maybe I'll post that on my Instagram, where I'm eating the Belgian Blue bowl. And it was amazing. It was so good. It was so tasty. And the guy just like cooked it up in a pan, you know, like he just like threw it in a pan, flipped it over a couple times, and then served it to me. And I was like, this is like tuna. Like it was like a tuna steak. It wasn't like it was so tender, and it was so fresh. I mean, like that cow was just slaughtered like 2 days before that. And I had like the most tender, fresh piece of meat with a guy that doesn't even know, like a farmer cooked it, and he doesn't really know how to cook well. And I was like, this is amazing. Like you didn't even mess that up. And then he was telling me like how fast it cooks up because how lean it is. I'm like, well, how lean is it? He said, that steak that you just ate right there has less fat than boneless, skinless chicken breast. I was like, what? And it was super tender. I'm like, why wouldn't I want to be involved in this? And so when I started doing the carnivore diet, I kept telling Mark, we got to find the Belgian Blues. We got to find the Belgian Blues. I tried to call Craig Phillips' farm in Colorado. I couldn't find them on the internet. I don't know if they went out of business. I don't know what happened, but I couldn't find them. And I kept looking and looking and looking, and our local supermarket around here is called Nugget. And I walked into a Nugget market, and I kept seeing Piedmontese beef, Piedmontese beef. I'd see it all the time and go, like, they have this, like, Piedmontese beef brand, and it's, like, a little bit more expensive, but it's less expensive than, like, the grass-finished stuff and a little less expensive than the prime stuff. It's, like, sort of a tweener, but I don't know why it's a tweener, so let me ask the butcher. And the butcher didn't even really know. He's like, I think it's, like, maybe more tender. I think it's, like, a different breed. And he's like, and I think it's leaner. And so I start Googling Piedmontese cows, and I see, the Piedmontese cows are jacked too. Start reading about the Piedmontese cows and realize they have a lack of the myostatin gene, so they get, bigger too. And I don't know if it contributes at all any differently to strength than any other kind of cow, but I like the idea of eating jacked cows. I like the idea of, like, hey, you are what you eat. Well, good, I'm going to eat a jacked cow.
I wonder if there's any scientist out there that's going to question if you are what you eat.
Yeah, well, you know what, though? Like, that's interesting, though, because the Liver King has this strong belief, and he says there's no science to support this. He's very clear on a lot of this stuff, and that's why I think, like, it's hard to really pin him down on stuff, because he's like, there's no proof of what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. I believe the stronger the animal, the stronger you'll become. So he believes, like, if we ate gorillas, we'd probably be the strongest. But he's like, it's just a belief that I have. It doesn't mean anything. You don't have to take anything away from it. But I feel like people that eat steak every day would be stronger than people that ate, like, a bird, like a chicken or a rodent. It's a bigger animal. There's more meat on it. It's like, and you can share it with everybody. He's like, you're eating like a rodent, and you just have enough meat for yourself barely. He's like, I don't know. I just feel like and obviously there is zero proof to that, but I like the idea of it too.
I mean, doesn't that, again, though, kind of, in a generous perspective, doesn't that kind of put it back to, isn't that kind of on faith? Isn't that kind of spirituality?
Yeah,
in some
exactly.
sense?
Exactly.
And as long as someone's not being manipulative,
there's a difference than saying, like, there's a study that says that if
Sure. Sure.
He's not saying any of that. He's not saying it's been proven by science.
Yeah.
He's literally prefacing it with, there's no proof of this.
I've met a lot of religious people, Chris. Of course, we can highlight to the ones that have these giant mega churches that are former, stadiums, or the old man with the plane that everyone's seen.
Oh, I love that guy that goes nuts.
Oh my God! But
Kenneth Copeland, right?
Most people of faith that I've met are genuine, good people. Of course, they're also people. They're flawed. We're all flawed.
Hey,
there's no pooping on people's faith is not. It's not.
There is no proof that Jesus was born to a virgin. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, there's no, like, that's like, hey, that sounds really far-fetched and impossible, but I know a hell of a lot of people that believe it.
Right.
And
right.
I'm not gonna say that those people are wrong. I'm just gonna say, like, that's what you believe, and God bless you. Like, I don't necessarily believe that, but if that's what you believe, go for it. My mom believed that. My dad believes that. And so it's okay.
We can take it to the very beginning. God created the heavens and the earth. If you accept that, everything beyond that is possible.
Well, what's interesting is that God created the heavens and the earth, and I used to say to my mom, what about dinosaurs?
Right.
And I'm like, that conveniently is, like, left out of the Bible.
Right.
And then there was my dad has even gone so far as, like, tell me, like, my dad's like, now I don't believe this, but some people think that dinosaur bones were put in the earth by God to make us believe that there was dinosaurs, that there was something before us, to make us doubt God. And if we really want to believe, and I'm like, Dad, just stop. Like, I know you don't believe that, so just stop.
But I guess that's leading me to, though, what that is leading me to think, though, is this guy is not getting enough credit for the other ancestral tenets that he promotes.
This is what I wanted to talk about, right?
Yes, right.
So about halfway through day one is when I said, you know what? I need to do this. He kept pounding on the 9 ancestral tenets, right? And so we can go over them. They're bond, right? Bond is like what we're doing right here. Friendship, having friends. You need to have friends. You need to have a small circle of friends that are really good friends. You don't need a lot of them. You just need a couple of them. You need to move, right? That's our workouts. and our our walking and all that stuff like that. We need to eat good, and the food for Liver King is basically like any sort of organs, any sort of meat. He also includes things like maple syrup. He also includes things like honey. Once in a while, not a lot, but like once in a while. With the liver, he'll put maple syrup on the liver so it doesn't taste bad. It kind of makes it taste pretty good. And we eat good, and then and so like a big thing of Liver King's diet is, just let me explain real quick. Big thing of his diet in every morning is bone marrow and liver. Like every morning, that's like first thing he eats every morning. He just likes that. It's pretty light. And maybe he'll have some eggs with that or something like that. But mainly, like usually he'll just eat that in the morning. He fasts at least once a week for 24 hours, which is something I think I'm going to engage in just because, like, why not? Mm-hmm. Like, if you're trying to create a calorie deficit, what if you and you're eating like 2,500 calories a day? What if you create a 2,500 calorie deficit one day of the week? It's a 1-day sacrifice. And then everything else is normal eating. Mm-hmm. Now, if that makes you eat more on the other days, that's not necessarily a great thing. You have to
have the discipline to slip back into the normal routine without like a binge event
you
afterwards.
Don't binge. Like, you don't get anything for it, right? Like, so it's like kind of like that. So his diet's pretty simple. He said, like, you might see some avocados slip in there or something like that. You could see right there on his link, it says liverking.com ebook. So the only thing he's trying to sell you on is giving you a free book. You know what I mean? That's what he's really trying to sell you on.
This is the book right here.
Well, internal server error. See?
Uh-oh.
It is on his website, though.
No, I think we got it this time.
Oh, yeah, you can download it.
That's it right there.
Yeah. So I actually have to read that. I haven't even read that yet.
I'll download it today.
Yeah. And the whole thing is, like, you don't dive into this head first. You slowly dive into it, you know? The other things they're not actually all up there, are they? Sun. Yeah. Okay. So sun is, get some sun, go out, walk in the sun. Fight. I'm not actually too sure of fight, so I don't want to go into it too much, but I think he talks about struggles and different things like that. And like fight might also be kind of like a workout thing. Cold is like do cold plunges, go out in the cold weather, being cold will help your body adapt to things as well as being hot, like a sauna or a cold plunge. Those kind of like temperature things that are like consistent with, I think cold is more consistent evolutionarily, right? Connect is connecting to the ground. So connecting doesn't mean bonding. There's already bonding. But connect means connect to the ground. Walk with your shoes off for 15 minutes first thing every day. So every day I've been walking outside.
Not on carpet, not on hardwood floor, outdoors.
Outdoors across the street from my house, there's a park. I walk out the door in my flip-flops because I have to walk across the street.
Right.
Once I get across the street, take the flip-flops off, and then I walk about, I think it's probably about 100 to 200 yards to a tree and back. And it's crazy because yesterday, it's like 100 degrees today, but it's 55 degrees in the morning, and the ground's probably like 50 degrees. And it's wet because it's always like dew in the morning, right? So just even doing that is kind of like walking on hot coals, but they're cold. Mm-hmm. It's like it's literally like your feet are freezing, and I'm trying to walk. And that's not necessarily saying that that's any better, but some days I have to suck it up, and some days I don't. I didn't do it this morning, so when I go home today, it's going to be 100 degrees out. I can take my shirt off. I can actually walk a lot longer because it'll be warm out, and I'll just walk in the grass like for as long as I feel like it, maybe 20 minutes. Like I'll do a longer walk in the grass just because it'll be warm out, and then sleep is the big one. And so what he made me realize about 5 minutes into talking to him, I'm not doing all this. Before I can say that you're on steroids, before I can say that you cheated to get this way like everybody else is saying, before I open my mouth and even try to give you any sort of criticism, I better be doing all this. Because he's been doing all this for the past 15 years or more, right? He's been training for like 35 years. Like he's, over 38 years or something. He's been training since he was 8 years old. So like, what would happen if you or I were on the same diet, didn't cheat, didn't do anything out of the ordinary, put in that amount of calorie burning and that kind of work. What if we did that? What would we look like?
What if we never got broken and came up?
It's
clean
so
like
easy to just scroll up and worry about what Jake Paul's doing, who he's fighting next, or worry about, what, somebody said online, whatever. It's like, it's easy to just keep scrolling past it.
Yeah.
But if you stop and think, what have I done to achieve my greatness? What have I done to leave my mark on the world? Am I doing enough? And I think almost everybody could ask, like, if Liver King asked himself, are you doing enough? All you'd have to do is look at David Goggins or Cameron Haynes and be like, maybe I'm not doing enough. It's all your perspective, right? So I would say, like, for somebody like me, I can handle a little bit more, but there's limits because of pain, For somebody like in your position, you might be able to handle certain things that I can't, but then some of it is just not practical for you to, like, it's not practical for you to walk 5 miles a day. Like, your feet will be killing you, Yeah. And so it's not going to help you. Like, it's going to hurt you. So to a point, I think we can all be doing more. And then, like, how much, like, but it's all relative to you. It's not like you have to do what he does, is what I'm saying. You just have to do more. Like Mark says, do more, be more.
Right.
And I really believe in that. I actually thought the worst idea I've ever heard is the barbarian. You know the barbarian? You know what it is?
What?
You have a 70-pound kettlebell in each hand. You have 20-pound ankle weights. You're dragging a sled with your body weight, and you have a 45-pound rucksack on, and you walk 1 mile. If you can do that, the Liver King will hire you for any job he has. He says, it tells me everything I need to know about you. I think that's amazing.
That's quite a test.
It's badass.
Yeah.
And so for people that say, well, you can't do that, it's impossible, his wife did it. His wife actually is one of 3 people that completed what's called Super Barbarian, which is more based on your body weight, but it's a lot harder than Barbarian even. And his wife completed it. So to be able to do that, like, made me want to marry her too. I'm like, man, she's taken. Once I heard she did Super Barbarian, I'm like, oh my God, like, that's amazing. It's just really, I don't know, man. You could put it down all you want, but I'd rather sink into, like, am I doing enough? I'd rather look at it in a perspective of, like, am I doing enough? You don't necessarily have to do what he's doing. It's not about that. It's not about getting ripped. One thing that he said to me that stuck out in my head more than anything that he said, and I think I only caught half of it on camera, I'm not sure, but he said to me, by the time you leave here, I want you to think that my physique is the least impressive thing about me.
Oh, I like that.
And when I left, I gave him a big hug and I said, listen, brother, your physique ain't shit.
Yeah, right.
And I'm kidding, but really, like, this has taught me so much more. The value that you've given me is priceless.
How many hours were you around the man and his family?
Probably like 5 hours the first day and probably 8 or 9 hours the next day.
Really?
Pretty long day, and then breakfast the following day.
Okay. That's
So
a good visit.
Good amount of time.
You can get a peek into somebody at that amount of time.
Yeah. What's really cool is on his property, he's got this guest house. He's got this ranch house where Davy Crockett stayed. Not really. He actually lied to us about that, but it was funny. So I brought it up. He's like, Davy Crockett's, stayed here. And Mark and I were like, that's amazing. Yeah. And he's like, nah, I'm just kidding. It just sounds cool. Yeah. And when Mark's like, well, he was the king of the wild frontier. He's like, you're right. I got to keep that story going. But anyway, it's an old house built in like the 1800s. Really cool, like, space. And like when you walk into the house, it's old, but it's like redone. It's like modern, like not modern inside, but like everything's all nice. Like it's a really nice place. And then the house that they built next door is like a brick house where we shot the podcast. You'll see, and it's just really cool looking. It's brick. It's got this like theme of like brick and like animal skins on the wall and like horns hanging up on the wall, and just a really cool, like his own like elk lodge kind of place, you know? And it's just really dope. It's like a really, really sick little place. And then on that same property has like this ice house that's like out on like a little lake. and there's like this house. It's amazing. I mean, if this guy had parties and like entertained and had people, like it's an amazing place to bring people because the ice house is basically like a bar. It's like a bar with like a outdoor covered patio. So if it's like 1,000,000 degrees out, you could sit out there and still enjoy it. He's got a big smoker out there, which we would love.
Oof.
We didn't use that, but I would have loved to like sit out there and smoke some meat. It's just a like almost like a magical place, you know, like Neverland Ranch or what is it?
Yeah, Neverland Ranch.
Like
right?
what like Michael Jackson had.
Yeah,
or something.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like it's his own domain.
What was the Elvis one called? Do you remember?
Graceland.
Graceland.
Yeah, and he was the and he keeps talking about like Liver King. Like I said, I thought it was a gimmick, and I thought it was like this guy refers to himself in the third person. All these weird little hangups I had about whatever. I'm like, well, The Rock refers to himself in third person too. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's a thing. And when the Liver King explains to you why, he's like, I got 60 seconds to get my message across, and I want you to remember Liver King because liver is king. That's all. That's all I want you to remember. And so he's like, I might nail that 3 times in one pitch, but the only way I can do that is to call myself Liver King. Like Liver King here, blah, 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 Liver King out. So you get 2 in every post no matter what, and usually I slip 1 more in, right? So if Mark Bell wanted to brand his name, he'd have to say, hey, it's Mark Bell here, and blah, blah, and it feels a little weird. But with a, like almost a gimmick name, like a wrestling name, like if Mark said, hey, it's Smelly, and Smelly was his message, but there's no real message in Smelly,
Right.
except for he reeks. But that's kind of what it is. It's just branding. When I used to work for WWE, Shane McMahon said, that guy's not a wrestler. He's a WWE superstar. You know? This is a WWE city. Everything you say has WWE in front of it. You know why? That's branding. Get used to it because you're going to need to know that.
Right.
And I'm like, all right. You know, and like that's a brilliant, you know, brilliant branding, brilliant marketing. I think a lot of this is marketing and brilliance, but I think rather than people looking at him to not like him, it's like, what could I learn from this?
You know, and I also wonder too, like, you know, he's found his purpose. And I think sometimes when people reach a certain material wealth and they sort of feel safe and secure about their own future, then they start going, okay, how can I make an impact? You know, how can I make an impact around me? And it seems like he's doing more than just trying to sling supplements out there to me.
Yeah. And, you know, if you've seen all my movies, he is by far the most interesting person I've ever talked to.
Wow. That's
If
saying something.
If what he's saying is all true, he's the most interesting person I've talked to. Who knows, right? There's like a lot of people still like, well, he's definitely on steroids, and like, I don't care to get into that argument with people. I believe him. I've never seen anybody work that hard, and so what he said to me that was I thought was great was he said a lot of people say it's impossible. I think actually Mark also said this on the podcast. He said, well, ask Joe Rogan. And, you know, I was talking before, Joe Rogan kind of talked shit about him. But he said, my response to Joe Rogan is it's impossible to sell a podcast for $100 million. Nobody's ever done it before. No one's even sold one for $50 million. You know, so he's like, that would just be impossible, Joe, you know? And then what would Joe Rogan say? I just went out and did it. And the Liver King's saying the same thing. I just went out and did this. Mm-hmm. And people can choose whether to believe him or not. But I think that that's a great perspective. It's like, it was impossible to run a 4-minute mile until somebody went out and did it.
Right.
It was impossible to bench press, you know, 800 pounds until somebody did it.
You know, speaking of, right, you know, we share, I know it's a different relationship, but we share a common hero, I would say, in Mark. And every now and then when I'm in a mood and I'm sitting there going through, sometimes I'll read through the comments, and there's always these people that show such an elite level of ignorance in what they write. And even in your post, we notice our boy Brandon, who's fucking killing it now.
Yeah, my buddy Brandon lost 77 pounds.
The ignorance that people come in.
Like I said, the guy posted on my Insta, like he replied to me,
Yeah.
and I gave my friend liver because I said, "Hey, listen, I think liver helps you with satiation. It helps you not be hungry.
Right.
I know you struggle with that once in a while. Maybe if you eat like an ounce of liver in
Right.
the morning, I just want you to try it for a week or two.
Right.
If you don't like it, throw it in the garbage. I don't
Right.
care."
Right.
And that was kind of it. And then guys like, "Oh, that's great. What are you supposed to do? You handed it to him in the middle of a set and blah blah blah." And like you said, it's for the gram. Like,
It's for the gram.
and so
it's
I
a
write-
little bit of branding.
yeah, and I wrote back like, yeah, I want to put over Piedmontese beef because they now sell liver. So I want people to register that in their brain that a lot of people don't know where to get liver. Like I said, I'm not making money off it. I'm just getting free
And
liver out of it.
you're putting over Brandon because Brandon's fucking killing it
Putting
right
over
now.
Brandon because he's great.
And a nice man.
And the thing is, like, I'm trying to get a point across that, like, hey, Mark calls it swallow the frog.
Hmm.
Wake up in the morning and swallow the frog.
Mhm.
Go walk on the grass. It's 50 degrees
Mhm.
and really cold on your feet.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
go in the cold plunge.
Mhm.
Do the things that are hard.
Well, that's my point. I see people criticizing Mark for his endeavor to gain mobility and to be able to run
Yeah.
after he's been one of the strongest men that's ever.
Why would you want to do that?
Why would you want to do? And they don't really realize that this is real.
Talk to Nate Diaz. Like, why is he doing? What are those Nick Diaz? Why do they do triathlons and stuff?
And that's my point. It's very easy for me to be skeptical of the Liver King because I don't know the Liver King, but I do know Mark, and Mark is the real fucking deal.
Yeah.
And this guy, who am I to presume that this guy is any less genuine than Mark?
Yeah.
And I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. It's easy to be skeptical when you don't know the guy, when you've never, like you were telling me the other day, when you just, when all you do is digest someone's social media and but you've never shook hands, you've never looked each other in the eyes, you've never shared a conversation with somebody.
It's not a real relationship.
It's not a real relationship. It's a relationship where you get to try to poke holes because you really, in a lot of cases, don't. And I'm not saying you, Chris. I'm saying like
No,
the
but
obvious. People don't know what the fuck they're talking about usually.
And like I was saying, like I'm friends with people. Like I'm friends with Brendan Schaub.
Right.
Right. But I have a disordered relationship with him because I hear his podcast and I'll hear him say some things that I might not agree with.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, Schaub's an idiot, whatever. I never mean that. I love that dude.
Right.
He's awesome.
Right.
He's my friend.
Right.
I consider him a friend.
Right.
Not a good friend, but he's somebody I know. I used to train at Gold's and he'd be there every day. And we talked a lot. And he's a great podcaster. But he says some things that people disagree with, or maybe people don't think he's funny or whatever. Like, I don't care about any of that. He's my friend. And I find myself getting mad at him or Brian Callen, who I also love. And I'll get mad because they said something that like triggered me and it's not just them. I'm just using them as an example.
Right.
Somebody says something that triggers me on a podcast about something that's not true. And it's a comedy podcast. And like, I'm getting worked up about it. Well, first of all, they won.
Right.
They won. They're
Right.
making millions of dollars doing what they're doing.
Right.
And then secondly, like, why do I have this disorder? Why am I letting myself get mad? Why am I giving that any energy? Like Rogan says, you only have a certain amount of bandwidth every day.
Yeah.
And stop using that bandwidth up on bullshit.
Right. Yeah. So I would say I think until you've had a conversation with the guy, be a little bit more cautious in the shit talking. That's probably a lesson that probably anyone listening to this could learn. Until you've had a conversation with someone, until you've exchanged some sort of real dialogue, just be cautious with the shit talking.
I find a lot of times when I talk bad about somebody, it haunts me the rest of the day. And sometimes for
Chris.
weeks.
Same, Chris.
Here's what happened with Liver King, and I'll be dead honest with you. Mark came in and was starting to talk about the Liver King on Logan Paul's podcast and blah, blah, blah. And I had not consumed that much of the Liver King's content at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's gimmick, blah, blah, this and that. Like, I just blew it off. And I was like really kind of aggressive even towards Mark. And Mark's like, just like listen to him, hear what he has to say. And I'm like, this is coming from Mark, who's I really trust and love, And he's like, just give it a chance. I think some of these things might help you. I'm driving home from the gym and I'm listening to the podcast. And where do I go? The first place I go is right to the Davis Food Co-op. And I go, I need a pound of liver.
Damn, you're gonna make me try liver, aren't you? I'm
in.
sold on your energy, man.
I'm like, I'm in.
I have very comfortably not eaten any liver since you've sort of taken
Well,
this
I will
on.
bring you liver tomorrow.
Yes. Okay.
And then you'll have some to try, and you'll
Okay.
know if you like it or not without wasting any money.
Okay.
It's real easy to do. You just chop it up. But here's where I think it would work for you. you're on a weight loss journey.
Right.
You might have some days where you want to fast. What if you fasted, but like during that fast, you could like, you give yourself a clause where you're like, I can eat liver on the day I'm fasting.
Now, is this liver
Just to get some food in.
Are you cooking the liver or eating it raw?
I eat it raw, but you could cook it. There's no problem. There's no shame in the game of cooking it if you like it cooked. I actually hear it's pretty good seared with some butter and some onions.
So if I told you I air fried it, put some onion powder and some salt on
You
it,
just can't overcook it. If you overcook it, you're done.
Do you kill all the vitamins in it?
No, you don't kill the vitamins. You kill yourself. It tastes horrible if you.
Okay.
It's very like it needs to be like a medium rare.
Okay.
You know, it's actually probably better to just pan fry it.
Okay.
I don't think air frying is a great idea with it.
Okay.
Unless you read some recipes and you can let me know.
No, I'm a horrible cook.
Yeah. So I think just maybe like some butter in a pan.
You know, my Traeger, I would just Traeger it for 10 minutes. Because the Traeger, you can't ruin meat with the Traeger.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd look it up first and see.
I will.
I mean, maybe smoked liver is amazing. Who knows?
You know, some applewood smoke on a liver.
You can
maybe?
also chop it up raw and dump some maple syrup on it, maybe a little salt if you want, and you can try it like that. And the maple syrup just gives it like a little bit of sweetness, you know, that kind of kills off some of the bitterness. It's just very bitter.
Right.
But you know what? Think about the things that have gotten you the most high, the most drunk, right? What are they? Or the most energized? If you go to Starbucks and you get a nitro cold brew, you're like, woo! Like when you drink it, like that. You know, or you get just a shot of espresso.
Yeah.
Kicks you in the face.
Yeah, it does.
Have a shot of Jägermeister. Kicks you in the face. You know, have a blast of Snoop Dogg's weed. It hits you in the face. So the things that are like really pungent and powerful usually pack a pretty strong punch. So wouldn't it be the same kind of with food? Like I'm almost overdosing on vitamins, you know?
Wow.
And a lot of people have written things to me like, you're going to get vitamin A toxicity from eating liver every day. You don't have to eat it every day. You have to eat it like about 4 ounces a week is very sufficient to get all the benefits that you would need from it.
Even though I'm presuming Liver King's eating it almost
He
every day
He eats a pound a day.
And he's done for probably a decade.
For a while. He really likes it.
But he
even says like I'm out of control. He's like I like it and I end up eating it all the time and you know, yeah, I'm kind of out of control on it. But that said, you don't have to be out of control on it. You just eat a little bit of it, and you don't have to like it. I don't like squats and deadlifts; they kill. But I do them.
Right.
You know, I don't like a lot of the stuff that I do.
Right.
But I do it.
Right. By the way, I need to acknowledge to you that just this morning I had a conversation with myself. I need to start putting squats and deadlifts back into my program. I had done it. I'd fallen. I'd hurt my back. Can
you do the squat max MD
yeah, I've
machine?
done it a couple of times with you.
I would just have you do that. I would. Do you do with the box on it?
No.
You do it without the box?
Maybe I should
the
try
box
with the
might
box
be
on.
more comfortable.
Remember, I was pulling back on it a little too hard?
Yeah. What I want you to do is figure out how you can be the most comfortable in a squat or a deadlift. I think box squats of any kind, whether it's here or at your house, doing box squats, I think is really important for you. You're a big guy and you need to get out of a chair.
Right.
And it's very practical.
Right.
So a box squat for you, it could even be a high box squat. It could be as high as this chair is. Like, see how my legs are pretty much at parallel right here, but they're not below parallel.
Right.
You don't need to go below parallel.
Right.
That's not going to help you any.
Right.
Now, Brandon can squat like a son of a gun.
Yeah.
That guy can get his ass down there.
Yeah.
But if you can't do that, don't do it.
And
You
Panda's a thick kid too.
Yeah.
And he's doing his first meet. He's on the Carb Warriors crew.
Yeah.
And so he posted he hadn't even planned on never imagined being in a meet, but now he's going to go into
Panda's calves are like 25 inches. It's crazy. I want to measure them. We got to measure his calves.
Okay.
But see, if we can get Panda to drop some weight and those calves start shaping up, he could be a calf model.
Yeah. Right.
He's got these gigantic calves. It's like ridiculous.
Right.
And like, I love seeing that kind of stuff too. I love seeing the guys in here that are like, you know, like we all have something to offer, right? So when Brandon comes in here and he's 377 pounds and doing ass to grass squats, what does that do to me? It inspires me.
Right.
It pumps me up.
Right.
You know, it's like, I love seeing that shit. When we have some of these kids come in here, Wyatt, my buddy Wyatt, he's 16 years old and he deadlifted 500 for a double. He benches 275 for reps every day. He's a 16-year-old kid and he's skinny as a rail. it fires me up. Like we have B come in here and she lifts, and it's like she fires me up because she's hot, but like, but she's also a great lifter. Like
Right.
she's deadlifting 315 for 15 reps. Like, how could you not get pumped up about that kind of stuff?
And the OG carb warrior, carnivore chef, and his
Everybody that comes in here, they
Yeah.
get me excited because everybody has something to offer.
Mhm.
I love talking to you kind of more than anybody when you come in. So it's like we connected ever since we met.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, and what you actually have to offer, I find is really interesting. You have the gift of gab. You can talk.
Thank you.
You like to talk, and you can talk, and so it doesn't always have to be like the physical thing that you're admiring in somebody. It could be like their
Right.
personality or how they treat you,
Right.
or
I mean,
all
we're
those
of the
things.
same. We're both children of the '80s.
And I think you're a lot like me. I have a really big heart. You like to give me presents, and I like to give you shit. And like
Yeah.
that's how good friends operate, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's like we click on that level where you're a very thoughtful person. Like you're always thinking of the other person, and sometimes you get your heart broken.
I do sometimes get my.
Sometimes you buy something for somebody or you give somebody something, like they just kind of don't appreciate it, and you're like,
Right.
oh man, like I didn't,
It happens.
But I want to let you know I use your Theragun all the time. That you give me.
Oh, good. I'm glad to
Yeah.
hear that.
And
Glad to hear that.
But I have an idea, which I'll share off camera because it's an idea for an invention with the Theragun. And it's a
Oh,
really
okay.
cool idea.
I love
And I
it.
think Mark might actually pursue it a little bit. It's
Oh.
really cool. Yeah, so this Liver King thing, it was like life changing. We went on the. I'll get back to what we were doing. We went on the boat. He's got a boat. We were doing some wake surfing, which I've never experienced before.
Wakeboarding.
Well, wake surfing, which is like you do the wakeboarding where you're holding on to the thing, and then you throw the rope inside the. You throw the rope,
Oh.
and you just surf on the
How
like Silver
cool is
Surfer
that?
on the wake, and the boat's driving along, and you're behind it. And so he did it, and his two kids did it. And then he wanted Mark and I to do it. But like, honestly, the reason I didn't try it is because we were traveling all day and I had to meet at Mark's house at 3:45 in the morning, which means I had to leave my house at 3:20 to get over there. It means I had to wake up at 2:30. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was up since like 2:30. And by the time we were wakeboarding, it was like 6:00 at night with like, time change and all that stuff. So I was just dead. That's the main reason I didn't do it. Mark thought he might die doing it. And he's probably like when he was little, he almost drowned in a wave pool at Action Park. Have you seen Class Action Park, by the way?
No.
Class Action Park's a great documentary about this place that Mark and I used to go to as kids all the time. And if anybody's from like the New Jersey area, they know a lot of people died at Action Park. Mark almost died there twice. Do you know what an alpine slide is?
Tell me.
So an alpine slide, you're in like a sled and you're going down a track and it goes like, it's like a bobsled. You know what a bobsled track looks like, right?
Yeah.
It's like riding a bobsled. And, but it's like you're a single guy and you have a stick and you push forward on the stick and it'll go faster down the hill. Well, Mark was going down and he was going full speed and he was like 10 years old. And he went up on one of the berms, and he went up and he flipped his thing.
Yeah.
But when you flip your thing, you're still sliding down the concrete.
Yeah.
Like so you slide down the concrete
So you're
path.
talking about water slides that you're doing the same thing?
It's not a water slide though. It is an alpine slide. You're in a sled and the track is concrete. So if you get thrown out of your sled, you just get like literally Mark had the skin ripped off from the bottom of his ankle, like all the way up to the top of his knee.
I've seen
like road rash
on my Instagram or TikTok feed, whatever it was. I've seen some heavy people, some people that were too heavy, hit those berms on water parks and skip up the wall and then rail slide
But here's
the corner.
yeah.
Just in their bathing
Yeah, you
suits.
get
and
grizzled.
They get grizzled.
So here's the thing: you get grizzled on that, and then we went after that, and we had to bring him to like first aid, and we thought like, man, Smelly ruined the trip. We're gonna have to go home. But Smelly's a warrior. He's like, no, I'm gonna still go,
Yeah.
And so they sprayed Smelly with like a bunch of antiseptic spray and whatever, put some bandages on him, but then later he took the bandages off and he wanted to go in the wave pool. I think this was the same year. It might have been a different, but I think it was the same year. And then he jumped in the wave pool, and he's in the wave pool, and he's in like the deeper end, and he's a kid. He's like 10, so he can't swim that good, whatever. And the waves start up, and he's like, "Oh my god!" Like he wasn't expecting it, and he almost drowned in the wave pool. And the lifeguard had to jump in and grab him. But as our family's a bunch of shit talkers, the first thing my dad does is buys him a shirt that says "I survived the Action Park wave pool," and he bought him the shirt that says "I survived the Alpine slide" because so many people got hurt on it.
I cannot believe Mr. Bell did that.
Yeah, you had to get him.
Did that.
You had to get him the shirt so you know. And I mean, Action Park was amazing, and I think you'd have a blast watching that documentary, like with your family, because it's like I think it's family friendly, but it's funny because everybody talks about. There might be some curse words in there because everybody talks about how fucked up they got on the Alpine slide or the wave pool. But there was a bunch of things there that almost killed people. And I think there was a couple deaths, and I think that's what shut it down. So the documentary, funny enough, is called Class Action Park. Oh. Because it's like, who would open up a place with such They had a water slide that you would go down and then around a loop and then shoot out into the water. They had a Tarzan swing where you would jump off of like a platform and you'd swing on this Tarzan swing out over the water, and then it would drop like 20 feet down, and then you dive into the water. They had cliff diving. They had like whitewater rapids. Like it was the most fun place you could ever possibly go, but you also get killed.
As a kid, we had a nice water park slide in town that I went to a handful of times. This sounds like that on steroids.
It's definitely on steroids. So Action Park, this is the best part of Action Park that my dad didn't really know about when we were little. He didn't know we were perverts back then. But there was a slide that was like straight down, and it's 110 feet tall. So it's 11 stories tall. And the slide, that's the loop-to-loop thing.
Oh, my God, Chris.
Okay, so see this slide right here, Russell? Go down one. No, right? That's the wave pool. Go next to that. Click on that slide. Okay, see this slide? It goes almost straight down, right? That top slide.
Top left.
Yep. And it almost goes straight down. They tell you to lean back all the way. Otherwise, you could fall. You could plummet to your death. That's what they tell you. So you're like a 10-year-old kid, and you're up there, and they're like, all right, make sure you lean all the way back, cross your arms, and stay back. And so see this? At the bottom of this slide, what happens is...
Holy shit, Chris. Did you...
Yeah, I went down this like 5 times. I loved it.
Holy shit, Chris.
It's the scariest thing you'll ever do. So I went on this water slide, right? But then what we realized, me and Mad Dog realized, we were about like 13, Mad Dog was like 14, 15. I was like 13. We realized that when you get down to the bottom, everybody's bathing suit, if you're a guy, it goes up your nuts.
Right.
But if you're a girl, there was the best wedgie viewing you've ever seen in your life. You just wait at the and see like where there's fences there? There'd be mobs of people hanging out there watching the bottom. But you're really only watching the bottom because you're hoping the girl's like, you're hoping her top comes off,
you know what,
or you're hoping that you get a show, you know? Wow. Yeah. And so my dad's like, why do you guys want to hang out here so long? We're like, oh, it's great. I love watching people go down the slide.
It's fun to get splashed by the water, Dad.
Yeah, that's kind of what we made it feel like, right? Yeah. And then you'd go to other other parks. Like I think I went to like Universal Studios or like Knott's Berry Farm. I hear and they have like a water flume ride, and you're like, this is so lame.
Yeah, I mean,
like just like the other rides in America just didn't stack up to these. That's so I highly recommend Class Action Park. It's on HBO Max.
Yeah,
and it's just a fun, mindless documentary. You know, about people getting killed at a water park.
It's just a fun family documentary about tragedy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
But anyway, going back to the whole Liver King thing, it's like, I don't know where I'm going to end up. Like, yeah, I am kind of jumping on the bandwagon, I guess, a little bit of the 9 ancestral tenets. But if you're not doing something new, if you're not looking for something new, you're dead in the water. You might as well be dead.
Right? It's a system. It's an organized system, right? Isn't that why the AA is so effective?
Well, it's interesting. System? It's interesting because, like, and so part of Liver King's thing is the diet. Part of it's the exercise, right? So for the diet, I mainly do a carnivore diet, and I add in some organs, but I also add in some fruit. I also here and there add in some rice. Like every Sunday, I usually have rice.
And he
does that stuff too.
He's been carnivore for a very long time, right?
But he's not strict carnivore.
No.
Like he'll have some avocados. Like I said, he'll have some of these things. He just doesn't eat any processed food. That's like the main rule. There is no processed food in the diet. There's no diet. Even like one thing that I think I could do better, but I'm not really sure I want to leave it yet, is diet soda. Now, I just heard Saladino talking about stevia being a, what do you call it? Not an what's the opposite of aphrodisiac? Like fertility. I read that, or I saw Saladino saying that stevia is used as like a fertility drug in some tribes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it'll shut you down. And I'm like, huh. And so I looked it up a little bit, and it seems to be like there's no real evidence that it's does that. But there's a lot of thought that, in that direction. I'm like, I don't know. A lot of these things we don't know. A lot of these things we might say, oh, Saladino, he's crazy. But what if he's not? What if he's saying, what if he's telling the truth? So I think we do. I like the word hedge. Like Liver King kept using the word hedge. So we hedge our bets, basically. We hedge our bets and we drink sparkling water or just regular plain water. Why? Well, because we know that there's no damage there being done.
Right.
We know for a fact.
Right.
If you want to have the Zevia once in a while, like maybe have it once in a while, but I'll drink like 6-pack a day. And so I just need to cut down on, I think I don't need to cut it out, but I think like, well, why not just cut that down? Maybe have like one a day. Maybe look to that as a treat. Right. And stop, it's $5 a day to drink a 6-pack of that.
I don't have the, it's kind of shameful how blatant my lack of willpower reveals itself, but I don't buy soda because I'll just drink it like it is water. So I grab one of those little 20-ounce bottles of Coke Zero at the register when I'm grabbing, everything else. And this is my little treat.
It's a treat once in a while.
It's a treat from the grocery store. I take it to my car, I drink it driving home, and then it's gone, and then I don't have to worry about it. But usually it's just LaCroix or Monster Energy drinks that I've been stuck on for the last, how many weeks now?
You know what's interesting is like just one little small change that people can make, right? Like I was talking to Justin, Deadlift and Dad. Justin.
And Dad. Yeah, great man.
Justin's awesome.
I love that guy.
One of the nicest people that comes into this gym. He's a big guy, and we're having a conversation, and he's like, yeah, like I'm on the computer all day at work and blah, blah, so I drink 2 Monsters a day. I'm like, oh, well, that's okay, and blah, blah. He goes, yeah, it's just all the sugar. And I'm like, wait a second, you're drinking sugar Monsters? And he's like, well, yeah, because I need the energy, and blah, blah. I go, no, you don't. Let's cut those out. And he cut them out this week, and he lost 5 pounds already.
He's also one of the.
So that's a little anecdotal, but like,
that guy's as strong as a bull, by the way.
Oh, he's super strong. He's going to do a meet coming up. But just the fact that I said, hey, why don't you? You know what I did? I gave him. We're sponsored by Monster here, so I said, hey, why don't we give him? Why don't you take one of these with you and try it? And he tried the sugar free. He's like, oh, the sugar free one's not bad at all. I said, well, see, we don't have to worry. It's not bad at all.
This is not his PR. He's clearly working up here.
I think he did. I want to say he did like 600.
I first got introduced through Justin through a post that Mark did where I think he deadlifted 700 plus, and Mark said something like, this puts this guy at the top like 1,000% of human strength just on this. And Justin's just a working dad. He's not an influencer. He's not a professional athlete. He is just a lifelong lifter.
Anybody that follows me and follows my post, I talked about an ostrich egg once being like a full day of food. Like if you ate an ostrich egg, it would have enough calories in it to feed you for the whole day. And I got that from his wife, who's an anthropologist, which I think she has the coolest job in the world.
Yes.
She goes around to like all these ancient tribes. I can't wait to talk to her again after this Liver King trip, actually, because I want to talk to her about a lot of these ancestral tenets because she goes to Africa all the time. Yeah. She actually gets to see these things. Yeah. She actually gets to experience what these tribes are doing. And I think there's such a disconnect that like people don't put it together. In what I gather from talking to her, people don't put it together like, rather than just studying this, maybe we should be doing some of this, right? And that's what I love is like connecting those dots. Like I know it's kind of stupid to be like, hey, our ancestors didn't have this and didn't have that. Like, so the Liver King is not by any means against technology. That's another knock that he gets is like he owns a private jet.
Such a silly knock. I've seen people level that against. That's common.
So he's got a private jet, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, you have a private jet," and blah blah blah.
Yeah, and
it's
he's
like,
got running water in his home as well. Are we gonna attack that?
Yeah, he barely goes. He doesn't use the private jet like every single day. It's not like he uses it for when him and his family go on trips and they don't want to be bothered with anything, and that's what they use. And so I don't see anything wrong with that. Like, I don't see, like, he's trying to avoid spending time doing bullshit. And he's got enough money to where he doesn't have to spend time doing dumb shit like going to the airport and taking your shoes off. Because one guy in the history of the world, you know about the shoe thing? Like,
Yes.
one guy had a shoe bomb one time. And
the
because
shoe
of
bomber.
that asshole,
Yeah.
like, everybody's got to take their shoes off every time they go on a plane, which is such a hassle. It's the worst. So, if, you got to put yourself in that position. If you had the money to do it, would you do it? He has people cooking for him all the time.
Yeah.
I know what Mark saw. That's a pretty good idea. That saves a lot of time and actually gets me excited about eating. Mark's like, I love cooking, but I wouldn't mind having somebody come over a couple days a week and like making us a nice dinner.
Right.
Like, I'm not against that, you know?
Right.
And so he's like, I got to look into that, because if you can afford to do that, like, why not do it?
A certain amount of success comes with a certain amount of luxury.
And him and his wife both love to cook, and they're both really good cooks. But at the same time, like what Mark said, he's like, I'd actually rather have somebody do that and clean up afterward. He's like, it's more about even the cleaning up. He's like, I don't really mind cooking. I hate cleaning up. And I hate seeing my wife cleaning up when she could be working on Slingshot, like, not that he hates to see it. Like, why has she got to waste her time doing that when she's running a big company, you know? So those things are interesting to think about, like, is this going to save me time? Is this going to allow me to do more at my job? By no means is the Liver King having a cook because he's lazy. He's having a cook so he can work out again.
Right.
On his day off, he trained twice.
And he's not the first person that's thought of that. I had, in a different life, I was in the real estate world, and one of my managers was a very successful real estate guy, and he said, anything that gives me more hours in the day to work real estate is something I'm going to.
Why did Steve Jobs wear the same clothes every day?
Right.
It was easy.
Right.
It's like, I know what I'm wearing. I'm good. I actually like that. Having like a uniform, everybody's used to seeing you in that, like, go. It's like, don't worry about what you're wearing. It doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah. That's very smart.
So, well, anyway, that was my trip to Texas to see the Liver King. I think we've been yapping for quite a while, huh?
90 minutes in.
Yeah, wow, really? Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'll shut up. I love you guys. Like I said, if you want to learn more about the Liver King, just simply go to liverking.com and download his book, The 9 Ancestral Tenets, which I still haven't done, admittedly, but I will do. And I'm going to follow a lot of this stuff. I will be posting a lot of this kind of stuff on Instagram. But then again, it doesn't mean it's the only thing I'm following. It doesn't mean I stop following science and I stop following new trends and this and that. It's like, I want to try this for a little while. I still have a lot of pain. Like, I haven't finished the pain equation. Until I can fix that, I need to keep trying things.
Right.
So this is just another thing I'm trying. And it's not necessarily another thing I'm trying. Like, I already had the diet part of it. But what I told Liver King is, like, I've only been doing like 1/9 of what you're prescribing. Like, I do some of the other stuff, but I kind of do it half-assed. So why not do 9/9 of it and see if I become whole again? That's the idea. So I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching.
Right? That feels powerful, right?
It does. Let me fucking get my hands on you.
Yeah,
Unite.
unite the clans.
Unite. Unite.
It just feels more powerful. Like, it feels
You gotta look him in the eyeball.
Yes.
How much weight loss so far total?
So far is 77.
77.
77 since February, about 8.
I got a present for you. What I want you to do, because you're doing so awesome, I think I can kick it up a notch with a little bit of liver. This is some Piedmontese grass-finished beef liver, and I want you to just chop this up in pieces, and I just want you to eat like an ounce a day.
Okay.
What I find is that it helps a lot with satiation, helps you not be hungry. So while this is the hard pill to swallow, I'm gonna give you this, but because I'm giving you that, you get one of these too. So this is a New York strip.
You didn't have to do that. Thank you so much.